The helicopter blades cut through the crisp mountain air at exactly 3:47 p.m., when everything changed forever. My name is Cole Brennan, 41 years old, former Delta Force operative turned single father. And for the past 6 weeks, I'd been flying the most beautiful woman I'd ever met to charity galas and fundraising events across the Pacific Northwest. Her name was Isabella Harrington, 29 years old, daughter of Senator James Harrington, one of the most powerful men in Washington, D.C. She had emerald eyes that could see straight through any lie, a smile that made hardened security guards forget their protocols, and a loneliness that matched my own. But on that third flight, with my 8-year-old daughter Emma hiding in the back storage compartment because she'd begged to see where Daddy works, Isabella leaned forward from the passenger seat and whispered 7 words that shattered my entire world. "They're going to kill my father tonight." I turned to look at her, confusion and alarm flooding my system. "What, Isabella, what are you—" "You're the only one I can tell," she interrupted, her voice trembling but controlled. "Everyone else, everyone in my father's circle, one of them is the traitor. You're the only person who isn't connected to Washington, the only one I can trust. Isabella, if your father's in danger, we need to call—" The missile hit us before I could finish the sentence. The world exploded into fire and screaming metal. The helicopter spun violently, systems failing, alarms shrieking. Through the chaos, I heard the one sound that stopped my heart completely. Emma's terrified scream from the back compartment. My daughter, my 8-year-old daughter who wasn't supposed to be here, who'd snuck aboard because she wanted to spend time with her dad, who was now plummeting toward the mountain wilderness in a dying aircraft. Everything I'd learned in 12 years of Special Forces operations kicked in instantly. I fought the controls with every ounce of strength, trying to turn our death spiral into something survivable. Trees rushed up to meet us. Isabella was screaming. Emma was crying. And in those final seconds before impact, one thought consumed me completely. I will not let my daughter die, not like her mother did, not on my watch, never again. We hit the mountain forest at 70 miles per hour, and the world went black. Pain, smoke, the smell of burning fuel. I regained consciousness to find blood streaming down my face and Emma's terrified voice calling, "Daddy! Daddy, please wake up! Daddy!" My eyes snapped open. The helicopter was on its side, wedged between 2 massive pine trees, the cockpit completely destroyed. Flames were starting to spread from the engine compartment. "Emma," I gasped, my voice raw. "Emma, are you hurt?" "My arm hurts really bad," she sobbed, "and I can't get out. The door is stuck." Adrenaline overrode every injury in my body. I unbuckled, ignoring the stabbing pain in my ribs, and crawled through the wreckage to reach my daughter. She was trapped in the storage compartment, a piece of metal pinning her left arm. "It's okay, baby girl. Daddy's here. I'm going to get you out." Isabella appeared beside me, blood streaming from a gash on her forehead, her expensive designer dress torn and covered in dirt. "Tell me what to do. How do I help?" For a woman who'd lived her entire life in luxury and privilege, she moved with surprising efficiency. Together, we pried the metal away from Emma's arm. My daughter screamed in pain, but we got her free. "Can you walk?" I asked Emma, checking her arm carefully. Broken, definitely broken, but she was alive. "I think so," Emma whimpered. "We need to move," Isabella said urgently, pointing at the spreading flames. "The fuel tank is going to—" The explosion threw us 20 feet through the forest. I covered Emma's body with my own, feeling the heat wash over us, debris raining down around us. When the world stopped shaking, I looked back to see the helicopter completely engulfed in flames. Any evidence of what happened, any proof that we'd been shot down, was being consumed by fire. "Who did this?" I demanded, turning to Isabella. "Who shot us down?" Isabella's face was pale with shock and pain, but her voice remained steady. "I don't know exactly who, but I know why. My father discovered something classified, something that goes all the way to the top of the intelligence community. He called me 2 nights ago, terrified, said if anything happened to him I should disappear, should trust no one in his inner circle. And you didn't think to mention this before we got on a helicopter," I said, anger mixing with fear. "I didn't think they'd act this fast," Isabella choked out. "I thought I had time, I thought—" She looked at Emma, her expression crumbling. "God, Cole, your daughter. This is my fault. She shouldn't be here. She shouldn't—" Blaming ourselves doesn't help, I interrupted, forcing myself into tactical mode. What matters now is survival. They shot us down, which means they're tracking us. They'll send ground teams to confirm we're dead. We have maybe 30 minutes before they arrive. I pulled out my phone. No signal. Of course not. We were deep in the Cascade Mountains, miles from any cell tower. We need to move, I said, helping Emma to her feet. Can you walk, sweetheart? Emma nodded bravely, tears streaming down her face, cradling her broken arm. I'm okay, Daddy, I can do it. My heart broke and swelled simultaneously. 8 years old and already braver than most adults I'd served with. I fashioned a makeshift sling from Isabella's torn dress, immobilizing Emma's arm as best I could. Then I took stock of our situation. No communication, no supplies, no weapons, miles from civilization, being hunted by people with unlimited resources and government backing. The survival odds were catastrophically low. But I'd survived worse, in Afghanistan and Syria, in places where death was guaranteed and living was the exception. Listen to me carefully, I told both Isabella and Emma. From this moment forward, we trust no one, we call no one. We assume everyone is compromised. Our only advantage is that they think we're dead. We need to keep it that way until we figure out who's behind this. How do we do that? Isabella asked. We survive, I said simply. We stay off the grid. We move through the wilderness. We don't contact anyone until we're absolutely certain who we can trust. Emma tugged on my sleeve. Daddy, I'm scared. I knelt down, meeting her eyes. Her mother's eyes, brown and deep and full of trust that I desperately hoped I deserved. I know, baby girl, but remember what I always taught you? Scared means we're about to be brave, and you're the bravest girl I know. She nodded, trying to be strong for me. We started moving through the dense forest, putting distance between ourselves and the burning wreckage. I carried Emma when the terrain got too rough, Isabella following close behind, never complaining despite her obvious injuries. Behind us I could already hear the distant sound of helicopters, search and rescue, or search and kill. In the world I'd just entered, there was no way to know the difference. We'd been walking for 5 hours when darkness forced us to stop. Emma was exhausted, her broken arm causing constant pain despite my attempts to cushion it. Isabella had twisted her ankle badly an hour ago, but refused to slow us down. I found a small cave, really just a deep overhang in the rocky mountainside, and declared it our shelter for the night. No fire. Fire would give away our position. We huddled together for warmth, Emma between Isabella and me, sharing body heat against the dropping temperature. Tell me about Emma's mother, Isabella said quietly, once Emma had fallen into an exhausted sleep against my chest. I was silent for a long moment, surprised by the question. Why? Because Emma mentioned her earlier, said Mommy would know what to do, and you looked like someone had stabbed you in the heart. I stroked Emma's hair gently, making sure she was truly asleep before I answered. Rachel, her name was Rachel. She was a trauma surgeon, brilliant, compassionate, the kind of person who made everyone around her better just by existing. What happened? I was deployed, Syria, high-value target extraction, 3-week mission that turned into 8 weeks when everything went sideways. Rachel was working late at the hospital delivering a baby. There was a car accident on her drive home. Drunk driver ran a red light. She died instantly. My voice cracked despite my efforts to remain controlled. I was 8,000 miles away, coordinating an operation to save people I'd never meet, while the only person who truly mattered was dying alone on a Portland street. By the time they could reach me, by the time I could get home, she'd been gone for 4 days. Emma was 3 years old. She doesn't remember much about her mother, just fragments, feelings. Isabella's hand found mine in the darkness. I'm so sorry, Cole. I left the military the day after her funeral, I continued. Couldn't do it anymore. Couldn't justify being absent from Emma's life for a job that had already cost me everything. I became a pilot. Helicopter tours, private flights, anything that let me be home for Emma every night. Anything that meant I'd never miss another moment of her life. And now she's here because of me, Isabella said, guilt thick in her voice. You were trying to protect her, and I brought danger straight to both of you. You didn't shoot that missile, I said firmly. Whoever's trying to kill you, they're responsible, not you. We sat in silence, listening to the night sounds of the forest. Somewhere in the distance I could still hear helicopters conducting search patterns. "Cole," Isabella whispered, "what my father discovered, it's not just corruption, it's something bigger. He said it went to the very top." Those were his exact words, the very top. I think he meant... She didn't finish the sentence. Didn't need to. If Senator Harrington had discovered something that reached the highest levels of government, then we weren't just fighting assassins. We were fighting an entire system with unlimited power and resources. "We'll figure it out," I promised, though I had no idea how. "Tomorrow we'll move toward the logging roads on the east side of the range. There's a small town, Carter's Ridge, population maybe 200. Old friend of mine from the service runs a supply store there. If anyone can help us without triggering whatever surveillance net they've thrown up, it's him." "And if your friend is compromised?" Isabella asked. "Then we improvise," I said. "It's what I do best." Emma stirred in her sleep, whimpering softly. I checked her forehead, warm but not feverish. The broken arm needed proper medical attention soon, but moving her now in the darkness would be more dangerous than waiting for dawn. Isabella shifted closer, sharing more body heat. "Thank you," she whispered, "for not abandoning me, for protecting Emma even though this is my fault, for being exactly the kind of man I hoped you were when I first met you." "We're not dead yet," I said, trying for humor and failing. "Save the gratitude for when we actually survive this." But privately, I knew the odds. 3 civilians, 1 injured child, 1 socialite with 0 survival training, and 1 former operator whose skills were rusty from 6 years of civilian life, being hunted by professional killers with government backing through hundreds of square miles of wilderness. The odds weren't just bad, they were impossible. But I'd made a promise to Rachel the day she died. I'd promised her spirit, her memory, that I would protect Emma with everything I had, that I would never let our daughter feel abandoned or alone. And I'd never broken a promise to Rachel. I wasn't about to start now. Dawn came cold and grey, mist hanging low over the mountain forest. Emma woke, crying softly, her arm swollen and painful. I gave her the last of our emergency water and 2 aspirin I'd found in my jacket pocket, inadequate for a broken bone, but better than nothing. We moved out at first light, heading east toward Carter's Ridge. The terrain was brutal, steep inclines, dense undergrowth, treacherous ravines. Emma never complained, though I could see the pain in every step she took. Isabella surprised me again, keeping pace despite her injured ankle, using a makeshift walking stick I'd fashioned from a fallen branch. Around noon we finally picked up a faint cell signal, just 1 bar flickering in and out. "Should we call someone?" Isabella asked. I hesitated, every instinct screaming caution. Who would we call? Police, FBI, your father's security team? We don't know who's compromised. "My father," Isabella said urgently. "If they were going to kill him last night, maybe they already have. Or maybe he's in hiding like us. I need to know if he's alive." I looked at Emma, who was sitting on a fallen log, exhausted and hurting, and made a decision that would haunt me for the rest of my life. "1 call," I agreed. "But make it fast. They can triangulate our position if we stay on long enough." Isabella dialed with shaking hands. The phone rang once, twice. On the 3rd ring, a man answered. "Isabella?" Senator James Harrington's voice was frantic with relief. "Oh, thank God, baby, where are you? Are you hurt? The helicopter, they told me you crashed. I thought you were dead." "I'm alive, Daddy, the pilot, Cole, he saved us. We crashed in the mountains, but we're okay. Someone shot us down. Someone tried to kill me." "I know, sweetheart, I know. Listen to me carefully. You need to get to safety immediately. I'm sending an extraction team to your location right now. Special forces. People I trust completely. Just stay where you are, and they'll bring you home." Something in his voice triggered my combat instincts. Too smooth. Too rehearsed. The senator was a politician, skilled at deception, but I'd spent years learning to read people in life or death situations. He was lying. I grabbed the phone from Isabella. "Senator, this is Cole Brennan. Before we reveal our location, I need confirmation of something only you would know. What was the name of your daughter's first horse?" Silence on the other end, too long, a second too long. Then Midnight. "Her name was Midnight. Now stop wasting time and tell me where my daughter is." I ended the call and immediately powered off the phone, pulling out the battery. Isabella stared at me in shock. "What are you doing? That was my father." "That wasn't your father," I said grimly. "Or if it was, he's compromised. Midnight wasn't your first horse's name." Isabella's face went pale. "How do you know that?" "Because you told me. 2 weeks ago. You said your first horse was named Butterscotch and you loved her so much you cried for a week when your parents sold her. You've told me a dozen stories about your childhood. Midnight was never mentioned." Isabella's hands started shaking violently. "Then who was I just talking to? That was my father's private number, his voice synthesis technology," I said. "The CIA's had it for years. If they have access to enough recordings of your father, they can replicate his voice perfectly, or—" I didn't finish the sentence, but Isabella did. "Or my father is already dead and someone else is using his phone." Emma had been listening quietly, her young face processing horrors no child should have to understand. "Does that mean the bad people know where we are now?" "It means they have a general area," I said, already moving, gathering our minimal supplies. "The call was short, but they got enough for a rough triangulation. We need to move. Now." We ran, or rather I carried Emma while Isabella limped beside us as fast as her injured ankle would allow. Behind us, the sound of helicopters grew louder, closer, more focused. They were coming. 30 minutes later, we heard something worse than helicopters. Voices. Men moving through the forest with military precision, calling out coordinates, establishing a search perimeter. These weren't local police or even FBI. These were operators. Professional soldiers conducting a manhunt with lethal intent. I found a small ravine filled with dense brush and pulled Isabella and Emma down into it, covering us with branches and debris. "Don't move," I breathed. "Don't make a sound. Not even breathing loud." Emma pressed her face against my chest, terrified but silent. Isabella squeezed my hand so tight her nails drew blood. The voices got closer. "Thermal's picking up something in Sector 7, a voice said, cold and professional. "Could be wildlife, could be targets." "Check it anyway," another voice commanded. "Orders are shoot on sight, no capture, no witnesses. Shoot on sight." They weren't here to rescue Isabella. They were here to eliminate everyone who knew about her father's discovery, including my 8-year-old daughter, who just wanted to spend time with her dad. The footsteps got closer. 10 feet away, 5 feet. So close I could smell the gun oil on their weapons. Then a deer burst from the undergrowth 50 yards to our left, crashing through the forest in panic. The thermal signature they'd detected, just an animal after all. "False alarm," the first voice said. "Sector 7 clear, moving to Sector 8. They passed within 3 feet of our hiding spot and never knew we were there. We waited until their voices faded completely before daring to move. When we finally emerged from the ravine, Isabella was crying silently, the full horror of our situation finally sinking in. "They're going to kill us," she whispered. "All of us, even Emma. They don't care that she's a child. They're going to kill her just for being a witness." "No," I said with absolute certainty. "They're not, because I'm not going to let them." But privately, as I looked at my exhausted, injured daughter and the terrified woman who'd accidentally dragged us into a government conspiracy, I knew the truth. Every person they called for help ended up dead. Every official channel was compromised. And somewhere in these mountains, professional killers were hunting us with orders to shoot on sight. We were completely alone. And alone, we had almost no chance of survival. We reached Carter's Ridge just after nightfall, a tiny logging town that time had forgotten, population 183 according to the faded sign. One main street, a general store, a diner, a gas station, and Jake Morrison's surplus supply store at the far end of town. Jake had saved my life in Kandahar province in 2015 when our convoy hit an IED. He'd carried me 3 miles through hostile territory with 2 bullets in his own leg. If there was anyone I could trust, anyone who wouldn't sell us out, it was Jake. We approached his store from the back, using the darkness for cover. I knocked 3 times, paused, knocked twice more, our old unit's signal. The door cracked open, and Jake's weathered face appeared, a shotgun pointed at chest level. Then recognition flooded his features. Cole Brennan, what the hell?" He saw Isabella and Emma, saw the injuries, saw the desperation. His expression hardened with understanding. "Get inside. Now." We stumbled into the back room of his store, and Jake immediately locked and barred the door behind us. His store was exactly what I'd hoped. Walls lined with survival gear, communications equipment, and enough weapons to supply a small militia. "Start talking," Jake commanded, "and don't leave anything out." "Start talking," Jake commanded, "and don't leave anything out." I told him everything. The helicopter crash, the missile, Isabella's father, the compromised phone call, the professional kill teams hunting us through the mountains. Jake listened without interrupting, his tactical mind processing every detail. When I finished, he was quiet for a long moment. "How you realize what you're describing," he finally said. "A conspiracy at the highest levels of government, organized assassination teams, communications intercepts. Cole, if even half of what you're saying is true, you're not just fighting criminals. You're fighting the system itself. I know. And you came here because you think I can help. You're the only person I trust who has the skills and resources we need." Jake looked at Emma, who was barely staying conscious from exhaustion and pain. "That little girl, she's yours?" "My daughter, Emma. Rachel's daughter." "Yes." Jake's expression softened. He'd known Rachel, had attended her funeral, had watched me shatter and slowly rebuild myself afterward. "Okay," he said finally. "Okay, I'm in, but first things first, that arm needs to be set properly." He pulled out a first aid kit that would make most field hospitals jealous. "This is going to hurt, sweetheart. I'm sorry, but your dad's going to hold you, and we're going to fix that arm. Can you be brave for me?" Emma nodded through her tears. "I can be brave." Setting the broken bone was one of the hardest things I'd ever done. Listening to my daughter scream in pain, holding her down while Jake worked with efficient medical precision. But when it was done, her arm was properly splinted, and she'd been given actual pain medication. She fell asleep almost immediately. The combination of exhaustion, pain relief, and finally feeling safe, overwhelming her system. "She's tough," Jake observed. "Takes after her old man." While Emma slept, Jake treated Isabella's various injuries, cleaned and stitched the head wound, wrapped her ankle, gave her antibiotics for potential infection. Then he turned to me. "Your turn, take off the shirt." I reluctantly complied, revealing the massive bruising across my ribs from the crash. "2 cracked ribs," Jake diagnosed after careful examination. "Maybe 3. You shouldn't be walking, much less running through mountains carrying a child. But you're a stubborn bastard, so I won't waste my breath telling you to rest." He wrapped my torso tightly, gave me industrial-strength painkillers, and handed me a bottle of water. "Now, let's figure out what Senator Harrington discovered that was worth all this killing." Isabella, cleaned up and bandaged, pulled out her phone, still powered off, battery removed. "My father sent me an email 3 days ago, encrypted. I haven't opened it yet because I was afraid it would trigger some kind of trace. But if we're going to figure this out, we need to know what he found." Jake went to his computer, a sophisticated setup that looked like it belonged in a government intelligence office, not a small-town surplus store. "What exactly do you do here, Jake?" Isabella asked, staring at the equipment. "Officially? I sell camping gear and ammunition. Unofficially? I provide secure communications and intelligence services to people who need to stay off the grid, former military, whistleblowers, people running from things that go bump in the night." He glanced at me. "People like you, apparently." He set up a secure encrypted connection using a series of proxy servers and VPNs that would make tracking us nearly impossible. "Okay, let's see what the senator wanted you to know." Isabella logged into her email using Jake's secure terminal. There it was, a message from her father sent 72 hours ago, marked with maximum encryption. The subject line, "If you're reading this, I'm already dead." Isabella's hand shook as she clicked to open it. The email contained a single video file. We watched in horrified silence as Senator James Harrington appeared on screen, looking exhausted and terrified, clearly recording this in secret. "Hey, Isabella, my darling girl," he began, his voice tight with fear. "If you're watching this, then they got to me. I'm so sorry. I'm sorry for everything I'm about to put you through, but I discovered something. Something that can't be buried. Something that has to be exposed, no matter the cost." He took a shaky breath. "For the past 6 months, I've been investigating black budget appropriations, money that disappears into classified programs with no oversight. What I found is Project Nightfall, It's not a defense program. It's an assassination network. A government-sanctioned kill team that eliminates American citizens deemed threats to national security without trial, without oversight, without any legal authority whatsoever. My blood ran cold. The senator continued. They've killed journalists, whistleblowers, political rivals, even members of Congress who got too close to the truth, all made to look like accidents, suicides, or random violence. And the people running it, they're not rogue agents. They're operating with approval from the very top. The Director of National Intelligence, the Vice President, people who've sworn to protect the Constitution while systematically destroying it. Isabella's face had gone ashen. I have proof, the senator said. Documents, recordings, evidence of 43 assassination operations over the past 8 years. I've hidden copies in 3 secure locations, and I've programmed a dead man's switch. If I don't check in every 72 hours, all of the evidence automatically uploads to every major news organization in the country. They can kill me, but they can't stop the truth from coming out. The senator's eyes filled with tears. Isabella, I need you to survive. Stay away from anyone in my circle. Trust no one in Washington. Find someone completely outside the system, someone with no connections, no ties to government, and survive long enough for my dead man's switch to trigger. That's all you have to do. Just survive for 72 hours from the moment I stop checking in. Then the truth will be public, and you'll be safe, because killing you won't accomplish anything anymore. He leaned closer to the camera. I love you, baby girl. I'm sorry I brought you into this world of lies and corruption. You deserved better. You deserved a father who was brave enough to fight this evil before it consumed everything. Survive, Isabella. That's all I ask. Just survive. The video ended. We sat in stunned silence. When did he send this? Jake asked quietly. Isabella checked the timestamp. 70 hours ago. And when did the helicopter go down? About 15 hours ago. Jake did the math immediately. Which means you have approximately 55 hours until the senator's dead man's switch triggers and the evidence goes public. 55 hours until you're no longer a threat that needs to be eliminated. We just have to survive for 55 more hours, Isabella breathed. Against a government-sponsored assassination network with unlimited resources and legal immunity, I added grimly. A network that's already killed 43 people and covered it up perfectly every single time. 44, Jake corrected, looking at the screen. Because the senator is definitely dead, they wouldn't have moved against you if he was still alive. The room fell silent except for Emma's soft breathing as she slept, blissfully unaware of the nightmare we were trapped in. We can't stay here, I said finally. If they're as thorough as the senator described, they'll eventually track us to Carter's Ridge. They'll question everyone. Jake, helping us, puts you directly in their crosshairs. I've been in crosshairs before, Jake said flatly. And unlike you 3, I'm armed, trained, and have zero problems shooting back. Besides, he gestured at his walls lined with weapons and surveillance equipment. This isn't my first rodeo with people who want me dead. What do you mean? Isabella asked. Jake smiled grimly. You think I run a spy-level communications setup in a small-town supply store for fun? Honey, I'm on about 7 different government watch lists for things I did in the service and things I've done since. If Project Nightfall is real, and based on what I've seen over the years, I absolutely believe it is, then I've probably been on their target list for a while now. Helping you doesn't change my situation. It just means I finally get to fight back. He stood up, all business. Here's what we're going to do. You 3 are going to hide in my basement bunker. Yes, I have a basement bunker, don't ask. For the next 48 hours. I'm going to supply you with food, medical supplies, communications equipment, and enough weapons to hold off a small army. At the 50-hour mark, assuming you're all still alive, I'm driving you to Seattle. We hole up in a safe house I maintain there until the senator's dead man's switch triggers and the evidence goes public. And if they find us before then, I asked. Jake's smile was cold and dangerous. Then they find out why Delta Force operators don't retire. We just reload. Jake's basement bunker was more sophisticated than most military installations I'd served in. Concrete walls 2 feet thick, air filtration system, independent power supply, enough food and water for 6 months, and an arsenal that would make most third-world countries jealous. You really were expecting the apocalypse, Isabella observed, looking around in amazement. I was expecting exactly this, Jake corrected. Government overreach, illegal operations, the day when standing up for what's right makes you the target instead of the hero. That day is apparently today. He showed us the surveillance feeds, dozens of cameras covering every approach to his property, thermal imaging, motion sensors. If anyone came for us, we'd know long before they arrived. Emma woke up, her arm feeling better thanks to the proper splint and pain medication. Jake had even found a stuffed bear in his emergency supplies, which Emma immediately clutched like a lifeline. "Mr. Jake," she asked with the innocent directness of children, "are the bad people going to find us here?" Jake knelt down to her level. "Maybe. But if they do, your dad and I are going to protect you. We're really good at protecting people. It's literally our job." "Were you a soldier like my dad?" "I was. We fought together, kept each other alive when lots of people were trying to kill us." Emma processed this seriously. "Then I think we'll probably be okay." If only her confidence was justified. We spent the first 12 hours in relative peace. Emma slept, her body desperately needing recovery. Isabella tried to rest but kept jolting awake, nightmares and stress making sleep impossible. I used the time to go through Jake's equipment, reacquainting myself with weapons I hadn't touched in 6 years. Muscle memory kicked in. How to field strip an M4, how to check night vision equipment, how to mentally prepare for combat after years of civilian life. Jake watched me work. "You haven't lost it," he observed. "The edge. Most guys 6 years out, they're soft, slow. You're still sharp." "Being a single parent is its own kind of combat training," I said. "Different enemies, same level of constant vigilance." Around hour 15, the surveillance system picked up something. 3 black SUVs entering Carter's Ridge, moving with purpose. "They're here," Jake said quietly. We watched on the monitors as the vehicles stopped at various locations throughout the tiny town. Men in civilian clothes but with obvious military bearing got out, began asking questions, showing photos. Photos of Isabella, photos of me, photos of Emma. "They're going door to door," Isabella breathed. "They're questioning everyone." "Standard manhunt protocol," I said. "Systematic, thorough. Eventually they'll reach Jake's store." "Let them," Jake said, checking his weapons. "I'm just a grumpy veteran who doesn't like government types asking questions. I'll play the part perfectly." "They're professionals," I warned. "They'll see through an act." "Then I won't act. I'll genuinely tell them to get the hell off my property. It's what I do to everyone who isn't buying something." We watched as the teams moved through town, their questioning becoming more aggressive as they failed to find any trace of us. Then, inevitably, they reached Jake's surplus store. 4 men approached. Jake went up to meet them, leaving us in the sealed bunker with instructions not to emerge no matter what we heard. The surveillance audio picked up their conversation. "Jake Morrison?" one of the men asked, showing credentials. "Federal agents, we're looking for 3 fugitives, a man, a woman, and a young girl. They're considered armed and dangerous. Have you seen anyone matching these descriptions?" Jake studied the photos without any visible reaction. "Nope, haven't seen them. Now, unless you're buying camping gear, I'd appreciate you leaving my property." "Sir, this is a federal investigation." "Don't care. I don't talk to feds without a warrant, and I especially don't talk to feds who show up in my town terrorizing my neighbors with your jackboot questions. Get a warrant or get gone." The lead agent's expression hardened. "Mr. Morrison, your military record indicates Delta Force, Special Operations. You have the exact skill set that someone fleeing a manhunt would seek out. Are you certain you haven't been contacted by Cole Brennan?" "I'm certain you're still on my property without a warrant," Jake replied, his hand drifting toward the concealed weapon at his back. "That's a problem that's about to get very uncomfortable for everyone involved." The tension on the surveillance feed was electric, 4 trained operators against 1. Jake would get maybe 2 of them before the others got him, but Jake had positioned himself perfectly, using his store's doorframe for cover, his body language calm, but his positioning tactically flawless. The lead agent made a decision. "We'll be back with that warrant." "Looking forward to it," Jake said coldly. They left, but they didn't leave town. The SUVs repositioned at strategic points around Carter's Ridge, watching, waiting, clearly suspicious, but unable to act without evidence. Jake returned to the bunker, his expression grim. They know, they don't have proof, but they know you're here or were here recently. The leader, his name's Kraus if the credentials are real, he's no fool. He'll get a judge to rubber stamp a warrant within hours, then come back with a full team. Then we can't stay, I said. No, Jake agreed. We can't. But we also can't leave in daylight with their surveillance watching every road out of town. We wait until dark, then move. And go where? Isabella asked. If they're this thorough in a tiny town, how do we possibly reach Seattle without being caught? Jake pulled up a map on his computer. We don't drive. They'll have roadblocks on every highway within 100 miles by morning. We go through the wilderness. There's an old logging trail that runs 40 miles northeast. Barely maintained, mostly overgrown. Ends at a small airfield where a buddy of mine keeps a Cessna. We fly low under radar, straight to Seattle. A 40-mile hike through mountains with an injured child, I said flatly. At night. It's our only option, Jake countered. Unless you want to sit here and wait for Kraus to come back with 30 operators and enough firepower to level this entire building. He was right. I hated that he was right, but he was. We leave at 2200 hours, I decided. Full darkness. Jake, what can you give us for supplies? Everything you need, Jake said, already pulling gear from storage. Night vision, thermal clothing, weapons, medical supplies, food, water, communications equipment. And this, he handed me a specialized satellite phone. Encrypted, untraceable, direct line to me. If something goes wrong, if you need extraction, you call, I'll come. Jake, you've already done more than... I'm not done, Jake interrupted firmly. You and Rachel, you were good to me when I got out of the service, when I was lost and broken and didn't know how to be human anymore. Rachel would check on me, bring me food, make sure I wasn't drinking myself to death. And you gave me a reason to stay alive by reminding me that good people still existed in the world. I owe you both everything. So I'm not done until you're safe. Clear? My throat tightened with emotion. Clear. The next few hours were spent preparing. Jake outfitted us like we were going on a military operation, because essentially we were. Emma got thermal gear sized down to fit her small frame. Isabella got proper hiking boots and cold weather clothing. I got weapons, a suppressed pistol, a compact rifle, enough ammunition to fight a small war. Dad, Emma said quietly as I helped her into her gear, are we going to die? The question hit me like a physical blow. No, baby girl, we're not, I promise you. You can't promise that, she said with the heartbreaking wisdom of a child who'd already lost one parent. Mom promised she'd come home from work, but she didn't. I knelt down, meeting her eyes. You're right, I can't promise nothing bad will ever happen, but I can promise that I will fight with everything I have to keep you safe. And Jake will fight. And even Miss Isabella will fight because she's braver than she thinks she is. So maybe I can't promise we won't die, but I can promise we won't die without one hell of a fight. Emma considered this, then nodded. Okay, that's a good promise. At 2145 hours, Jake's surveillance picked up movement. 4 more SUVs arriving in Carter's Ridge, a total of 20 operators now establishing a perimeter, clearly preparing for a raid. They got their warrant, Jake said grimly. Or they decided they don't need one. Either way, they're coming tonight. Then we leave now, I said. Not at 2200, right now. Jake led us through a hidden exit from the bunker, a tunnel that ran 200 yards into the forest, emerging in a dense thicket far from any road. It was brilliant engineering, the kind of paranoid preparation that was currently saving our lives. We emerged into the cold mountain night, fully geared, moving in tactical formation. Jake took point. I brought up the rear with Emma between Isabella and me. We moved quickly but carefully, using night vision to navigate the treacherous terrain. Behind us, we heard the sound of breaching charges. Jake's store was being raided. They're going to tear that place apart, Isabella whispered. Let them, Jake said without looking back. It's insured, and anything I actually cared about is in my backpack right now. We'd been hiking for 30 minutes when Jake's encrypted radio crackled to life. A voice I didn't recognize. Stormcrow, this is Raven. You've got inbound. 3 teams moving through the forest on thermal tracking. They're following your heat signatures. Copy, Raven, Jake responded. How much time? 20 minutes, maybe less. They're moving fast. Jake cursed. They must have had thermal drones in the air, probably picked us up the moment we exited the tunnel. Can we outrun them? Isabella asked. Not with Emma's pace, I said, the tactical calculation brutal but necessary. And not through this terrain in the dark. We'd break an ankle or worse. Then we don't run, Jake said, his voice taking on the cold certainty of a soldier accepting combat. We ambush. Cole, you remember the training? The Kabul playbook? I understood immediately. Hit fast, hit hard, disappear into the darkness before they can organize a response. Exactly. Jake was already scanning the terrain, his tactical mind working. There's a narrow ravine about 300 meters ahead. Perfect choke point. We set up there, take out the lead team, scatter the others, and vanish before they can call in reinforcements. Jake, I have a daughter with me, I said urgently. I can't put her in a combat zone. You don't have a choice, Jake countered. They're going to catch us in 20 minutes regardless. At least this way we control the engagement. We choose the ground. We have the element of surprise. It's the only tactical advantage we're going to get. He was right again. I hated that he was right again. Isabella, I said, making a decision I never thought I'd have to make. You're staying with Emma. There's a depression in the rocks about 50 meters from the ravine. You hide there with her. Stay low, stay quiet, and no matter what you hear, you don't move until I come for you. Understand? Cole, I can help. You can help by keeping my daughter alive, I interrupted. That's the most important job there is. Can you do that? Isabella's expression hardened with determination. Yes, I can do that. We moved quickly to the ravine Jake had identified. It was perfect. A narrow passage maybe 15 feet wide, with high rock walls on both sides. Any team coming through would be exposed, vulnerable, unable to maneuver. Jake and I took positions on opposite sides, hidden in the rocks with overlapping fields of fire. Isabella and Emma were concealed 50 meters back, wrapped in thermal blankets that would mask their heat signatures. Then we waited. The waiting was always the worst part. Minutes stretching into eternity, adrenaline surging, every sense hyper-aware. I could hear my own heartbeat, feel the cold metal of the rifle in my hands, remember a dozen other ambushes in a dozen other countries where the outcome hadn't always been certain. Then I heard them, quiet, professional, moving in standard tactical formation. They entered the ravine. Jake fired first. 2 suppressed shots that dropped the point man before he could even register the threat. I fired a split second later, taking out the second operator. The remaining 3 scattered, seeking cover, but the ravine offered none. They were trapped in a kill zone, exactly as Jake had planned. "Contact, we have contact," one of them shouted into his radio. 2 hostiles, prepared positions, military-grade ambush. I fired again and the radio went silent. The final 2 operators tried to retreat, but Jake had anticipated that. He'd positioned himself to cover the exit. 2 more shots. Then silence. 5 men down in less than 15 seconds. "Move!" Jake commanded. "The other teams will converge on this position in minutes. We need to be gone." We retrieved Isabella and Emma, who was shaking but unharmed, and ran. Behind us I could hear shouting, the sound of reinforcements arriving, discovering their dead teammates. "They're going to be furious now," Jake said as we moved through the forest at a brutal pace. "We just killed 5 federal operators. They're going to throw everything at us." "They were trying to kill us anyway," I pointed out. "At least now they know we can fight back." We hiked through the night, pushing ourselves to the limit of physical endurance. Emma never complained, though I knew every step was agony for her healing arm. Isabella kept pace despite her injured ankle, her earlier softness replaced by grim survival determination. Jake set a punishing pace and I matched it, carrying Emma when the terrain got too rough, ignoring the screaming pain from my cracked ribs. Dawn was breaking when we finally reached the airfield, a tiny strip of cracked pavement in the middle of nowhere, with a single hangar barely standing. "Please tell me your friend's plane is actually flyable," I said. Jake grinned. "Tommy's paranoid like me. That Cessna might look like junk, but it's got a rebuilt engine, upgraded avionics, and enough fuel to reach Seattle with range to spare. Assuming Tommy's actually here and not—" A gunshot cracked across the airfield. We dove for cover instinctively. Another shot hit the ground near Jake's feet. "Jake Morrison, you son of a bitch!" a voice roared from inside the hangar. "I know that's you. Show yourself before I blow your damn head off." Jake stood up slowly, hands raised. "Tommy, it's me! Don't shoot!" An old man emerged from the hangar, rifle pointed at Jake, wild white hair and wilder eyes. You think you can waltz onto my property at dawn with armed company, and I'm just going to wave hello? Who are these people? Friends, Jake said calmly. Good friends who need emergency transport to Seattle, no questions asked. No questions asked? Tommy laughed bitterly. Boy, I had federal agents here yesterday asking about suspicious flight activity. They showed me pictures of... He stopped, looking at me, then at Isabella, then at Emma. Recognition dawned. Oh, hell, you're them. You're the fugitives everyone's looking for. Tommy, Jake started. Don't Tommy me, the old man snapped. You know what harboring fugitives does? It gets you killed or imprisoned, that's what. I'm 76 years old. I don't need that kind of excitement. They're not criminals, Jake said firmly. They're whistleblowers. They discovered a government conspiracy, assassinations, illegal killings of American citizens. And now that same government is trying to eliminate them before the truth comes out. Tommy studied us for a long moment. Then his eyes landed on Emma, small and injured and exhausted, clutching her stuffed bear. That your daughter? He asked me. Yes, sir. How old? 8. Tommy's weathered face softened slightly. I had a granddaughter. 8 years old, died in a car accident 5 years ago. Drunk driver. He lowered the rifle. I don't help criminals, but I sure as hell help kids who need protecting. Get in the plane. We fly in 5 minutes. The Cessna was cramped, loud, and barely staying in the air, but it was flying. Tommy piloted with the casual expertise of someone who'd been flying for 50 years, keeping us low under commercial radar detection. Emma had fallen asleep almost immediately, exhausted beyond measure. Isabella sat beside her, one hand protectively on the child's shoulder, staring out the window at the mountains passing below. Cole, she said quietly, barely audible over the engine noise. What Jake said back there about my father's dead man's switch, do you think it will actually work? I don't know, I admitted. Your father was brilliant, paranoid, and thorough. If he said he set up an automated system, I believe him. The question is whether they can intercept it before it goes public. And if they can? Then we die for nothing, I said flatly. And a government-sponsored assassination network continues operating in the shadows, killing anyone who threatens their power. Isabella was quiet for a moment. I never understood why my father was always so guarded, so paranoid, so unwilling to trust even his closest advisors. I thought it was just political caution. Now I realize he knew. He'd known for years that his own government was rotten to the core, and he was trying to protect me by keeping me isolated from all of it. He succeeded in keeping you safe, I pointed out, until you weren't anymore. Because he tried to fight back, Isabella said. Because he couldn't just stay silent and let innocent people die. God, Cole, 43 assassinations, 43 Americans killed by their own government, journalists, whistleblowers, people just trying to tell the truth. 44 now, I reminded her. Your father makes 44. Isabella's eyes filled with tears. I haven't even had time to grieve him properly. He died 3 days ago and I've been running for my life ever since. I don't even know if they buried him or if that was just another lie. I reached across the cramped cabin and took her hand. When this is over, when we've survived the next 36 hours and your father's evidence goes public, you'll have time to grieve, time to honor his memory, time to make sure his sacrifice meant something. 36 hours, Isabella repeated. It sounds so simple, just stay alive for 36 more hours. Nothing about this is simple, I said, but we've made it this far, that counts for something. From the pilot's seat, Tommy called back, We've got a problem. What kind of problem? Jake asked immediately. 2 fighter jets just scrambled from McCord Air Force Base. They're on an intercept course with us. My blood went cold. They're going to shoot us down. In civilian airspace over populated areas. Tommy shook his head. No, but they're going to force us down. Probably to a military airfield where your friends will be waiting to grab you the moment we land. Can we evade them? Jake asked. Tommy laughed bitterly. Son, I'm flying a 50-year-old Cessna held together with duct tape and prayers. Those are F-15s capable of Mach 2.5. Evading them isn't an option. Then what do we do? Isabella asked. Tommy laughed bitterly. Son, I'm flying a 50-year-old Cessna held together with duct tape and prayers. Those are F-15s capable of Mach 2.5. Evading them isn't an option. Then what do we do? Isabella asked. Tommy's grin was slightly insane. We don't evade, we disappear. He suddenly dove, dropping altitude so fast my stomach lurched into my throat. Emma woke up screaming as the plane plummeted toward the mountains below. "What are you doing?" I shouted. "Something incredibly stupid," Tommy yelled back. "Hold on." We screamed toward a narrow valley, mountains rising on both sides. Tommy was flying lower than I'd ever seen anyone fly. Treetops so close I could see individual branches, the valley walls 100 feet on either side. The fighter jets couldn't follow. They were too fast, too large, designed for high-altitude combat, not low-level canyon running. They soared overhead, trying to track us, but Tommy was weaving through the valley system like a man possessed. "There's a reason they call me Crazy Tommy," he shouted, laughing. "Been outrunning authorities since I was running moonshine in the Appalachians in 1963. "You're going to kill us," Isabella screamed. "Maybe, but at least it'll be on my terms, not theirs." He flew for another 10 terrifying minutes, threading through valleys and canyons, before finally pulling up into a thick cloud bank. When we emerged, the fighter jets were gone, probably called back after losing visual contact. "They'll be tracking us on radar," Jake noted. "Not anymore," Tommy said, pointing to a switch he'd just flipped. "Transponder off, we're a ghost. As far as official tracking goes, we just vanished." He adjusted course, now flying low over populated areas where radar coverage was cluttered with commercial traffic. Just another small plane among thousands. "Where are we landing?" I asked. "Boeing Field," Tommy said. "Big commercial airport, lots of traffic. We slip in among the regular planes, land, and disappear before anyone realizes we're not supposed to be there." "That's not going to work," Jake said. "They'll have the entire airport locked down." "Then we don't land at the airport," Tommy corrected. "We land near the airport. There's an old closed runway about 2 miles south. Been abandoned for 30 years, but it's still concrete, still flat. Good enough for us." "And then what?" I asked. "Then you're on your own," Tommy said bluntly. "I've done my part, got you to Seattle in one piece. Whatever happens next is your problem." He was right. He'd already risked everything to help us. Asking for more would be condemning him to whatever fate awaited us. Jake pulled out his satellite phone, made a quick encrypted call. "Safe house is ready, apartment in Belltown, purchased through Shell Corporations. No paper trail connecting it to me. Food, supplies, communications equipment. Everything we need to hole up for the next 35 hours until the senator's dead man's switch triggers." "Assuming it actually triggers," Isabella said quietly. "It will," I said with more confidence than I felt. "Your father was too careful, too thorough to leave something like that to chance." We landed on the abandoned runway with a bone-jarring impact that made the old Cessna groan in protest. But Tommy brought us in safely. We scrambled out, grabbing our gear. "Tommy," I said, shaking the old man's hand, "thank you. You saved our lives." "Thank your buddy, Jake," Tommy replied. "He's the one who cashed in every favor I owed him to get me to help you. Now get out of here before someone sees you." We ran from the runway into the urban sprawl of South Seattle. 3 exhausted fugitives and a child, racing against time and an enemy with unlimited resources. Behind us, Tommy took off again, drawing any aerial surveillance away from our position. And somewhere in the city ahead, Jake's safe house waited, our last refuge before the final countdown began. The apartment was on the 14th floor of a nondescript building in Belltown, indistinguishable from hundreds of others. Jake had chosen well. Urban camouflage in a neighborhood where people minded their own business and didn't ask questions. Inside it was sparse but functional. 2 bedrooms, a kitchen stocked with non-perishable food, and most importantly, Jake's communications setup. Computers, encrypted servers, surveillance equipment monitoring every approach to the building. Emma collapsed onto a couch the moment we entered, her body finally giving out after nearly 48 hours of constant flight and fear. Isabella covered her with a blanket, her movements gentle and protective. "She's asleep," Isabella whispered, brushing hair from Emma's face. "Really deeply asleep. Is that normal after everything she's been through?" "It's adrenaline crash," I explained quietly. "Her body has been running on pure survival instinct for 2 days. Now that she feels safe, relatively safe, it's shutting down to recover. Let her sleep. She needs it." Jake was already at the computers, pulling up news feeds, monitoring police frequencies, tracking any mention of our names or descriptions. "We made the national news," he said grimly. "They're calling us domestic terrorists now, claiming we attacked federal agents, stole classified documents, and are planning some kind of attack. They've escalated the narrative. Of course they have, I said bitterly. Dead terrorists can't testify, can't expose conspiracies, can't tell the truth. How long until the senator's dead man's switch triggers? Jake asked. Isabella checked her father's encrypted email timestamp. 34 hours and 17 minutes, if my father's system works as intended. Big if, Jake muttered. I checked the surveillance feeds. Streets below were normal, no obvious surveillance, no indication we'd been tracked here. For now, we were ghosts. Everyone get some rest, I ordered. I'll take first watch. We rotate every 4 hours. Jake, you're second. Isabella, you're third. I don't know how to do surveillance, Isabella protested. Then you're about to learn, Jake said, already setting up the monitoring software. It's simple. Watch the feeds. If you see anything suspicious, multiple vehicles arriving simultaneously, people in tactical gear, anyone watching the building, you wake us immediately. Got it? Isabella nodded, determination overriding her fear. Jake and I set up defensive positions, weapons cached at strategic points throughout the apartment, escape routes planned, contingencies prepared for every scenario we could imagine. Do you think we're actually going to make it? Jake asked quietly while Isabella was in the other room. Honestly, I said. The odds are terrible. They know we're in Seattle. They have the resources to search every building systematically, and we're running out of time, places to hide, and options. But I've survived impossible odds before. So have you, and right now impossible is all we've got. Jake smiled grimly. Impossible, the story of our lives. I took first watch, letting Jake and Isabella rest while Emma slept. The hours crawled by, midnight, then 1 a.m., then 2 a.m. The city below continued its normal rhythm, oblivious to the fugitives hiding above. At 0400 hours, movement on the surveillance feed caught my attention. 3 black SUVs pulling up outside the building. My heart rate spiked. Jake, we have contact. Jake was awake instantly, trained reflexes overriding exhaustion. He checked the feeds. Shit, how did they find us? Doesn't matter how, they're here, everyone up now. Isabella woke, saw the urgency in our faces, and immediately moved to Emma. Sweetheart, wake up, we need to go. Emma's eyes opened, still groggy. Are the bad people here? Yes, baby, I said, helping her into her shoes. But we're going to run again, just like before, remember, brave, quiet, and fast. Jake pulled up the building's fire escape schematic. Rear exit, down 14 floors, emerge in the alley. We've got maybe 5 minutes before they breach the apartment door. We grabbed essential supplies, weapons, communications, medical kit, and abandoned everything else. No time for anything that would slow us down. The rear stairwell was dark, narrow, and echoing with our footsteps despite our efforts to move quietly. We descended as fast as Emma could manage, Jake leading, Isabella in the middle, me bringing up the rear with a rifle. From above, the sound of breaching charges. They'd reached the apartment. Move faster, I urged. We burst out the rear exit into the alley, just as I heard shouting from above. They'd discovered we were gone, were already pursuing. This way. Jake led us through a maze of back alleys, using his knowledge of the city to navigate routes that larger vehicles couldn't follow. We ran through the pre-dawn darkness, Emma in my arms, Isabella keeping pace despite exhaustion. Behind us, flashlight beams shouting, the organized chaos of a professional manhunt. We emerged onto a main street, just as a city bus was pulling away from a stop. Jake ran alongside, pounding on the door. The driver, annoyed but compliant, opened the doors. We scrambled aboard. The driver started to complain about the late boarding, then saw Jake's expression and wisely stayed silent. As the bus pulled away, I looked back through the rear window. Men in tactical gear emerging from the alley, scanning the street just seconds too late. Where does this bus go? Isabella gasped, trying to catch her breath. Down. Town, Jake said, checking the route map, which is perfect. More people, more places to hide, more opportunities to disappear. Emma had her face pressed against my chest, shaking. Daddy, I'm tired of running. I know, baby girl, I know. Just a little bit longer. 32 more hours. Can you be brave for 32 more hours? She nodded against my chest, though I felt her tears soaking through my shirt. The bus rumbled through the awakening city, and I realized we'd just burned our safe house, our last refuge. From this point forward, we were truly on the street, truly hunted with nowhere left to hide. We spent the next hours moving constantly, bus to ferry, ferry to different neighborhood, walking through crowds, never staying anywhere long enough to establish a pattern. Jake used his contacts to arrange temporary stops. An abandoned warehouse for 2 hours, a sympathetic veterans garage for another 3, a 24-hour diner where we could sit among early morning workers and blend into the background. Emma's energy was flagging badly. Her broken arm was hurting again despite the pain medication. She needed rest, proper medical attention, and safety, none of which I could provide. How much longer? She asked for the 100th time. Isabella checked her phone. 23 hours and 41 minutes. Emma's face crumpled. That's forever. It's less than 1 whole day, Isabella said gently. You've already been so brave for 2 whole days. 1 more day is nothing compared to what you've already done. Will it really be over then? Emma asked. Will the bad people stop chasing us? Isabella and I exchanged glances. The honest answer was we didn't know. Even if the senator's dead man switch worked, even if the evidence went public, there was no guarantee Project Nightfall would simply give up. But Emma needed hope more than truth right now. Yes, I lied. When the timer runs out, the truth will be everywhere. And once everyone knows, there's no reason to hurt us anymore. Emma accepted this, or pretended to, and curled up against my side to sleep again. Jake pulled me aside while Isabella watched Emma. We have a problem. Another one? My contacts are going silent. 3 people I reached out to for safe house options. None of them are responding. Radio silence. My stomach dropped. You think they've been compromised? I think they're dead, Jake said bluntly. Just like the senator said, every person we call for help ends up dead within hours. They're not just hunting us, Cole. They're systematically eliminating anyone who might help us, making sure we have nowhere to run. Then we stop calling people, I said. We survive on our own until the deadline hits. 23 hours on the street with no resources and an injured child. Jake shook his head. That's not survival. That's just dying slowly. He was right, but I didn't have a better answer. We moved again, this time to the Seattle waterfront, mixing with tourists and morning commuters. The normalcy of the scene was surreal. People going about their lives, drinking coffee, taking photos, completely unaware that 3 fugitives were hiding in plain sight among them. I need to use the bathroom, Emma whispered. We found a public restroom. Isabella took Emma inside while Jake and I kept watch outside, scanning for threats in every face, every vehicle, every person who looked twice at us. They emerged after a few minutes. Emma looked slightly better, having washed her face and hands, pretending for a moment that this was just a normal day. Can we get food? She asked. I'm really hungry. We found a small cafe, paid cash for sandwiches and coffee. The simple act of eating normal food in a normal place felt like a luxury we didn't deserve. Miss Isabella, Emma asked between bites, if we survive, what happens after? Isabella looked startled by the question. What do you mean, sweetheart? Will you still be around? Or will you go back to being a rich person and forget about us? The innocent directness of the question hung in the air. Isabella's eyes met mine across the table, an entire conversation happening without words. Then she looked back at Emma. I won't forget about you, Isabella said seriously. You and your dad, you've saved my life more times than I can count. You've been braver and kinder than anyone I've ever known. When this is over, if I'm alive, I want to stay in your lives. If that's okay with you, Emma considered this. Like a friend? Like family, Isabella corrected gently. If you'll have me. Emma smiled, the first real smile I'd seen from her in days. Okay, you can be family. My chest tightened with emotion I couldn't afford to feel right now. This woman, this billionaire's daughter who'd accidentally destroyed our lives, had somehow become essential to both of us. Jake's phone buzzed. He checked it and his face went pale. What? I demanded. News alert. They just found Tommy, the pilot who flew us to Seattle. He was pulled over for a routine traffic stop an hour ago, except it wasn't routine. They shot him 13 times, claimed he pulled a weapon. Everyone knows that's bullshit. Tommy wouldn't have pulled on cops. The cafe suddenly felt too exposed, too dangerous. They were killing everyone. Everyone who'd helped us, everyone who'd shown us kindness. We're toxic, I said quietly. Everyone we touch dies. Then we stop touching people, Jake said grimly. 22 hours, we just have to make it 22 more hours without getting anyone else killed. We left the cafe, moving back into the anonymous crowds. The day wore on, morning bleeding into afternoon, afternoon into evening. We rotated between public spaces, never staying anywhere long, constantly moving. Emma's questions came less frequently now. She'd retreated into herself, processing trauma in whatever way an 8-year-old mind could manage. Isabella stayed close, one hand always on Emma's shoulder, as if physical contact could somehow protect her. As evening fell, Jake found us a spot in a parking garage, not ideal but sheltered, with good sight lines and multiple escape routes. We huddled between parked cars, taking turns sleeping in shifts. 17 hours, Isabella whispered, checking her phone for the 100th time. 17 hours and 12 minutes. We're going to make it, I said, trying to believe it. Are we? Isabella asked. Cole, be honest with me, what are our actual odds of surviving until that timer runs out? I looked at Emma, sleeping fitfully against Isabella's side. At Jake, keeping watch with his rifle across his lap. At Isabella herself, this woman who'd gone from charity galas to sleeping in parking garages in less than a week. Honestly, I said, maybe 20%. They have every advantage: numbers, resources, technology, legal authority. We're exhausted, injured, running out of options. But 20% isn't zero, and I've survived worse odds. When? I smiled grimly. Kandahar Province, 2014. Our convoy got ambushed. 12 operators against about 40 hostiles. Odds said we should all die. Jake and I were the only two who made it out. So yeah, I've beaten 20% odds before. How? Isabella asked. By refusing to accept that death was inevitable, I said simply. By fighting every second, making them work for every inch, and finding advantages where none should exist. And by having someone watching my back who I trusted absolutely. I looked at Jake, who nodded slightly in acknowledgement. We're going to survive, I said with more conviction, because giving up isn't an option. Because Emma deserves to see her 9th birthday. Because your father died to expose this conspiracy, and we're not letting his sacrifice be for nothing. We're going to survive because anything else is unacceptable. Isabella leaned her head against my shoulder. Okay, I believe you. But privately, as I kept watch over my sleeping daughter and the woman who'd become impossibly important to both of us, I knew the truth. The next 17 hours would be the hardest of our lives, and only one thing was certain. Before this was over, people were going to die. I just had to make sure it wasn't us. Deus, the night deepened. Seattle's skyline glittered around us, millions of people living normal lives while we hid in a parking garage, counting down minutes until either salvation or death. At 200 hours, with just 8 hours remaining, Jake's encrypted phone buzzed. He checked it, his expression darkening. What now? I asked. Message from one of my deep cover contacts. Project Nightfall has mobilized every asset in the Pacific Northwest. They're not being subtle anymore. Hundreds of operators, coordinated sweeps, facial recognition software running on every security camera in Seattle. They know we're here. They know we're close to the deadline, and they're throwing everything at finding us before the senator's evidence goes public. 8 hours, Isabella breathed. We just need 8 more hours. They're not going to give us 8 hours, Jake said. Look at this. He showed us his phone, a map of Seattle with red zones spreading across it like a virus. These are areas they've already swept, systematically clearing the city, section by section. In 4 hours, they'll reach this location. Then we move again, I said. To where? Jake challenged. Cole, we're out of safe spaces. Every contact is dead or compromised. Every hiding place is being systematically eliminated. We're cornered. Emma stirred, waking from her fitful sleep. Daddy, what's wrong? Nothing, baby girl, I lied. Go back to sleep. But she sat up, her 8-year-old eyes seeing through my deception. You're scared. I can tell when you're scared because your voice gets different. I looked at my daughter, exhausted, injured, traumatized, but still brave, and made a decision. You're right, I am scared, but you know what I'm most scared of? What? Letting you down. Your mom trusted me to keep you safe, and I've dragged you through hell for the past 3 days, but I promise you, Emma, I promise on your mother's memory, we're going to survive this. 8 more hours, that's all we need. Can we really do it? Emma asked. Before I could answer, Isabella spoke up. Yes, we can. And I'll tell you why. because your dad is the most stubborn, determined, impossibly brave person I've ever met, and he doesn't know how to give up. None of us do." Emma looked at Isabella with absolute trust. "Okay, 8 more hours. I can do 8 more hours." Jake stood up, checking his weapons. "If they're going to sweep this area in 4 hours, we need to move now. But not just move. We need to go somewhere they've already searched. Somewhere they'll think is clear. Backwards into their sweep pattern, I realized. Hide in the areas they've already cleared." "Exactly. They won't expect us to double back. It's tactically counterintuitive, which makes it our best option." We gathered our minimal gear and moved out into the pre-dawn darkness. The city was quieter now, that dead hour between nightlife ending and morning commuters beginning. Jake led us through back alleys and side streets, using his knowledge of Seattle's layout to navigate toward areas marked as cleared on his surveillance map. We moved like ghosts, avoiding cameras, staying in shadows, 3 adults protecting 1 small, brave child. At 0430 hours, we reached an abandoned construction site in Pioneer Square. A half-finished building, all concrete skeleton and exposed rebar. According to Jake's map, it had been swept 2 hours ago. "This is our final position," Jake declared. "We hole up here until the deadline. No more running. We make our stand." The building offered good defensive positions, multiple levels, limited access points, clear sight lines. If they found us here, we could at least fight back effectively. We climbed to the 3rd floor, set up in what would eventually be someone's office space, but was currently just open concrete and windows without glass. 6 hours and 23 minutes, Isabella said, her voice shaking. Emma was sitting against a concrete pillar, Mr. Buttons clutched tight, her broken arm resting in its sling. She looked so small, so fragile, so impossibly brave. I sat beside her, pulling her close. "Tell me something, baby girl. When this is all over, when we're safe, what's the first thing you want to do?" Emma thought carefully. "I want to go home, to our real home. I want to sleep in my own bed. And I want pancakes for breakfast, the kind Mom used to make with chocolate chips." My throat tightened. "I'll make you the best chocolate chip pancakes you've ever had, I promise. And Miss Isabella can have some too," Emma added, "because she's family now." Isabella, keeping watch at a window, turned back with tears streaming down her face. "I would love that, sweetheart. I would love that more than anything." Jake was setting up defensive positions, weapons cached at strategic points, improvised early warning systems using loose debris that would make noise if disturbed. He worked with the methodical efficiency of a soldier who'd done this 100 times before. "Jake," I said quietly, "thank you for everything, for risking your life for us, for—" "Don't," Jake interrupted firmly. "We're not doing goodbye speeches, not yet. We've got 6 hours. That's an eternity in tactical time." But we both knew the truth. The odds of all of us surviving were vanishingly small. The hours crawled by. Dawn broke, painting the Seattle skyline in gold and pink, beautiful and ordinary and completely disconnected from our nightmare. 4 hours, Isabella announced. Then 3 hours. Then 2. At 0845 hours, with 1 hour and 15 minutes remaining, we heard it. The distant sound of vehicles, multiple vehicles, converging on our location. "They found us," Jake said grimly. "Don't know how, but they found us." I looked out the window. 6 SUVs pulling up around the construction site, men deploying, professional, armed, moving with military precision. "How many?" Isabella asked, her voice steady despite the fear in her eyes. 20, I estimated. Maybe 25. "Against the 3 of us," Jake noted, "and Emma." Emma stood up, her small voice clear and determined. "I can help fight." "No," I said immediately. "Baby girl, you're going to hide. There's a storage closet on the floor below. You're going to hide there, stay quiet, and no matter what you hear, you don't come out until either me, Jake, or Isabella comes to get you, understand?" "But Daddy—" "Understand?" I repeated, my voice harder than I'd ever used with her. Emma's lower lip trembled, but she nodded. "Yes, sir." Isabella took Emma's hand. "I'll hide with her. 2 sets of eyes, 2 people protecting each other." "Isabella, you need to—" I started. "I need to keep your daughter safe," Isabella interrupted. "That's my job. That's the most important job there is. You and Jake, you're soldiers. You know how to fight. I don't. But I know how to protect someone I love. So that's what I'm doing." She kissed me quickly, A brief, fierce kiss that said everything we didn't have time to say, and led Emma to the stairs. Emma turned back once. "Daddy, don't die, okay?" "Okay, baby girl, I promise." It was a promise I desperately hoped I could keep. Jake and I took positions, weapons ready. Below we could hear commands being shouted, teams organizing, the systematic approach of professional operators preparing to clear a building. "This is it," Jake said, "our last stand." "Not our last," I corrected. "We've got 72 minutes. We hold them for 72 minutes and Isabella's father's evidence goes public. After that, killing us accomplishes nothing." 72 minutes is a long time to hold against 25 hostiles, Jake observed. "Then we'd better make every second count." The first team entered the building. We heard them clearing the ground floor, methodical and thorough. Then they started up the stairs to the second floor. Jake and I waited. Patience was a weapon. Letting them commit to the building, letting them think they had us trapped. When the first operator appeared at the third-floor landing, I fired. One shot, center mass, he went down. "Contact, third floor," someone shouted. Then all hell broke loose. Gunfire erupted throughout the building, suppressed shots from our position, louder reports from their weapons. Jake and I moved constantly, using the concrete pillars for cover, firing from different positions to make them think there were more of us than there actually were. "They're pinned on the third floor," a voice commanded. "Team 2, flank from the east stairwell." We'd anticipated that. Jake had rigged the east stairwell with improvised alarms. The moment we heard them trigger, he repositioned, caught them in a crossfire. But they were good, professional, learning our tactics, adapting, pressing forward despite losses. "We can't hold this position much longer," Jake shouted over the gunfire. I checked my watch. 58 minutes remaining. We fell back to a more defensible position, a corner of the third floor with only one approach, giving us overlapping fields of fire. But we were also more trapped, with fewer escape routes. The assault intensified. They weren't being cautious anymore. They were throwing bodies at us, overwhelming through sheer numbers. I fired until my magazine was empty, reloaded, fired again. Beside me, Jake was a machine. Calm, efficient, every shot counting. But we were taking fire from multiple angles now. Rounds punching through concrete, showering us with debris. A bullet grazed my shoulder, burning pain, but nothing critical. I kept firing. 43 minutes remaining. "Brennan," a voice called out, amplified through a megaphone. "Cole Brennan, this is Agent Krause. You're surrounded. You've killed 8 of my men. There's no escape. Surrender now, and the child lives. You have my word." "So your word is worthless," I shouted back. "We know about Project Nightfall. We know about the 44 assassinations. We know everything." A pause, then you understand why you can't be allowed to live, but the child, she's innocent. She doesn't need to die today. Send her out. We'll place her in protective custody. She'll be safe. You have my word as a federal agent." I looked at Jake. We both knew what protective custody meant. Emma would disappear into the system, probably end up dead within days. Another tragic accident. "Not a chance," I shouted. "Then you've condemned her to death," Krause responded coldly. "I hope you can live with that. Oh wait, you won't be living. Never mind." 38 minutes, Jake shouted to me. "We just need 38 more minutes." "Rush them," Krause commanded. "All teams, simultaneous assault, overwhelm their position." They came from both stairwells, a coordinated push suppressing us with overwhelming fire while advancing rapidly. Jake took a round in the leg, went down hard. "I'm hit! Still in the fight, but I'm hit!" I dragged him behind better cover, laid down suppressing fire, but there were too many of them. We'd killed maybe 10, wounded several more, but the rest were pushing through. 29 minutes remaining. This was it, the end. We'd held longer than anyone had right to expect, but we were out of ammunition, out of options, out of time. And then, impossibly, I heard new gunfire, different weapons coming from behind the assault teams. The operators attacking us suddenly turned, confused, taking fire from an unexpected direction. "What the hell?" Krause's voice over the radio. "Who's shooting at us? Identify yourselves." Through the chaos, I heard a voice I recognized. Tommy's voice, the pilot we thought was dead. "This is the U.S. Marshals Service," Tommy shouted, his old voice carrying authority that made trained killers hesitate. "You are engaged in an illegal assault on American citizens. Stand down immediately or be fired upon." But that was impossible. Tommy was dead. We'd heard the news report. Unless the news report was fake. Unless Tommy had faked his death to throw them off, unless he'd come back with help when we needed it most. The assault teams were caught between two forces now. Us in front, federal marshals behind. Their tactical advantage evaporated. "Stand down," Kraus commanded his teams. "Tactical retreat now." They pulled back, dragging their wounded, abandoning the building under covering fire. And then Tommy appeared at the third-floor landing, but he wasn't alone. Behind him were a dozen men in tactical gear, but not Project Nightfall operators. These wore official U.S. Marshal insignia. Tommy grinned at me. "Surprise, I'm not actually dead. Got some friends in the Marshal Service who owed me favors. Been trailing you for the past 6 hours, waiting for the right moment to intervene." "You glorious crazy bastard," Jake breathed, pain evident in his voice but alive. One of the marshals approached, a woman with steel-gray hair and a badge that read, "Chief Deputy Martinez." "Mr. Brennan, Mr. Morrison, Ms. Harrington, where is she?" "Hidden with my daughter," I said. "Safe." "Good, because she checked her watch. 23 minutes. Senator Harrington's evidence is going to be broadcast simultaneously to every major news organization in America. When that happens, this entire conspiracy collapses. But we need you alive to testify, all of you." "How did you know?" I asked. "How did you find us?" "We didn't find you," Martinez said. "We found them. We've been investigating Project Nightfall for 8 months, ever since we started noticing patterns in high-profile deaths. When Senator Harrington reached out to us 2 weeks ago with preliminary evidence, we began coordinating with him. We knew about his dead man switch. We knew he was in danger. When he died and you became their target, we've been tracking their movements, waiting for the right moment to intervene with overwhelming force." "Why didn't you intervene sooner?" Jake demanded, anger mixing with relief. "We've been running for 3 days. Because we needed them to commit resources," Martinez explained. "We needed them to expose themselves. Every operator they sent after you, every illegal action they took, that's evidence. That's proof of conspiracy. If we'd grabbed you on day one, they would have disappeared back into the shadows. But now we have dozens of federal agents, witnessed engaging in illegal assassination attempts. We have bodies. We have evidence. We have everything we need to destroy Project Nightfall completely. I thought about the people who died helping us. Tommy's fake death. Jake's contacts going silent. The price that had been paid for this moment. Go get your daughter," Martinez said gently. "And Ms. Harrington, you've earned some peace." I found Isabella and Emma in the storage closet, both unharmed, clutching each other. Emma's face lit up when she saw me. "Daddy, you're alive!" "You kept your promise." I gathered her into my arms, ignoring the pain from my injuries, just holding my daughter and thanking God or fate or whatever had kept us alive. Isabella emerged, looking at me with questions in her eyes. "Is it over? Are we—" "We're safe," I confirmed. "The marshals are here. Your father's evidence is about to go public." "It's over, Isabella. We survived." She collapsed against me, crying with relief and grief and exhaustion all mixed together. We made our way back to the 3rd floor, where paramedics were treating Jake's leg wound. Martinez was on multiple phones, coordinating what was clearly a massive operation. My watch showed 9:57 a.m., 3 minutes until Senator Harrington's dead man switch activated. We gathered around Martinez's tablet as she pulled up live news feeds. Every major network, every news website, all showing their regular programming. 9:58 a.m. "It's going to work, right?" Emma asked. "Grandpa's plan?" Isabella smiled through her tears. "He's not your grandpa, sweetie." "He is now," Emma said with child-logic certainty. "Your family. That makes him family. So it's Grandpa's plan." Isabella hugged Emma tight, unable to speak. 9:59 a.m. The seconds ticked down. 10:98. "Please work," Isabella whispered. "Please, Daddy, one last time. Protect us one last time." 3, 2, 1. 10 to M. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, simultaneously across every news feed, programming cut to emergency broadcasts. Breaking news. Massive document dump exposes illegal government assassination program. Senator James Harrington's final message, evidence of 44 murders. Project Nightfall, the secret kill team operating inside U.S. intelligence. The documents flooded out. Thousands of pages, audio recordings, video evidence, financial records. Everything Senator Harrington had collected over months of investigation. Proof of a conspiracy so vast, so illegal, so fundamentally anti-American that even hardened journalists were struggling to process it. Names were being named. High-level officials, intelligence community leaders, people who'd sworn to protect the Constitution while systematically destroying it. Within minutes, every news network was running the same story. There was no way to suppress it, no way to spin it, no way to make it disappear. The truth was public, and we were safe. Isabella collapsed into my arms, sobbing. He did it. My father actually did it. He's been dead for 3 days, but he still protected me. He protected all of us, I said quietly. His evidence, his sacrifice, it saved us. Emma tugged on my sleeve. Does this mean we can go home now and have those pancakes? I laughed, the first genuine laugh in 3 days. Yes, baby girl, we can go home now. Martinez approached. Mr. Brennan, you and your daughter will need protective custody for a few days while we round up the remaining Project Nightfall operators. But after that, you're free. Clear of all charges. In fact, you'll probably be offered witness protection, given how many powerful people are about to be very angry at you. I don't want witness protection, I said firmly. I want my normal life back. I want to take my daughter home, make her pancakes, and never run from assassins again. I think that can be arranged, Martinez said with a smile. You epilogue 3 months later. Saturday morning sunlight streamed through the kitchen windows of our new house. Not the old one that had been shot up, but a new home in a quiet neighborhood, paid for by a settlement from the government that could never actually compensate for what we'd been through, but at least acknowledge the trauma. I was making chocolate chip pancakes, Emma's favorite, just as I'd promised. Emma sat at the table, her cast finally removed 2 weeks ago, her arm healed. She was drawing a picture, her, me, and Isabella, all holding hands under a rainbow. The nightmares had mostly stopped. The therapy was helping. The doorbell rang. Emma jumped up, running to the door. That's Miss Isabella, she's here. I opened the door to find Isabella on the porch, holding a stuffed animal, a fancy teddy bear that probably cost more than my first car. She'd visited every weekend for the past 3 months, slowly becoming a fixed part of our lives. I brought reinforcements for Mr. Buttons, she said, handing the bear to Emma. I thought he might like a friend. Emma examined the bear critically. His name is Senator, because he's brave like Grandpa. Isabella's eyes filled with tears, but she smiled. That's a perfect name, sweetheart. She'd testified before Congress, her emotional account of her father's investigation, and the subsequent manhunt bringing several hardened politicians to tears. The hearings were ongoing. Dozens of officials had been arrested. Project Nightfall was being dismantled piece by piece. But on Saturday mornings, none of that mattered. On Saturday mornings, we were just 3 people who'd survived hell together, trying to build something resembling a normal life. Pancakes are almost ready, I announced. Who wants the first batch? Me! Emma shouted. You'll share, Isabella laughed. As we sat around the table, eating pancakes, telling stories, laughing at Emma's jokes, I thought about how 3 months ago I'd been certain we would all die. How impossible survival had seemed. But we'd made it. Through wilderness, conspiracies, assassins, and impossible odds, we'd survived. Jake called that afternoon, checking in as he did every week. His leg had healed well. He'd gone back to running his store, but now he had a new side business, consulting for the congressional investigation, helping them understand the tactical aspects of Project Nightfall's operations. Are you 3 doing okay? He asked. Yeah, I said, watching Emma and Isabella playing in the backyard, their laughter floating through the open window. Yeah, Jake, we're actually doing okay. Good, you earned it, brother, all of you. That evening, after Emma had gone to bed, Isabella and I sat on the porch watching the sunset paint the sky in impossible colors. I've been thinking, Isabella said quietly, about what happens next for us. Us? I repeated carefully. Cole, we survived a government assassination plot together. We protected each other. We protected Emma. We've been through more in 3 days than most people experience in a lifetime. And these past 3 months, every weekend I come here, every moment I spend with you and Emma, I feel more at home than I ever did in my father's world of wealth and power. She took my hand. I'm not asking you to marry me. That would be insane. We barely know each other in normal circumstances. But I am asking, could this be something? Could we see where this goes? I thought about Rachel, my first love, Emma's mother. I thought about the promise I'd made to her to protect our daughter, to give her a good life, to never let her feel abandoned. And I realized that letting someone new into our lives, someone who'd proven beyond any doubt that she would die to protect Emma, wasn't breaking that promise. It was honoring it. Yeah, I said, squeezing Isabella's hand. I think this could definitely be something. Emma's voice called from her bedroom window. Are you two kissing out there? Because gross, but also I'm okay with it. We both laughed. She's been hoping for this, I admitted. Smart kid, Isabella said. And there, on an ordinary Saturday evening in an ordinary suburban neighborhood, the former Special Forces operative, the billionaire's daughter, and the brave 8-year-old girl, who'd survived the impossible, began the next chapter of their story. Not running from death, but running toward life, together. They say that trauma either breaks you or makes you stronger. I don't think that's true. I think trauma just reveals who you always were. Emma was always brave. Life just forced her to prove it. Isabella was always fierce. She just needed a reason to fight. And me? I was always a protector. I just needed to remember that protecting the people you love isn't a weakness. It's the only strength that actually matters. 3 months ago, a billionaire's daughter crashed into my life with a whisper and a warning. She destroyed everything I'd built. And then she helped me build something better. Not a perfect life, not a safe life, but a real life. With real love, real family, real purpose. They tried to kill us. They failed. And every morning I wake up with Emma's laughter in my ears and Isabella's smile in my kitchen. I remember, survival isn't just about staying alive. It's about finding reasons to keep living. And I've got 2 pretty damn good reasons. Sitting at my breakfast table asking for extra chocolate chips in their pancakes. That's not survival. That's victory.